So the big bad bill of 2025 thus far has seemingly reared its head in the form of Assembly Bill 1333, telling you that you do not have the legal ability to defend yourself or your home against an assailant. Instead, you have the duty to retreat. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. That is right, the California Legislature is back at it trying to deal a crippling blow to Californians and the way that they can defend themselves here in the state. Of course, I am talking about Assembly Bill 1333. To talk us through that today, we have brought back the Legislative Director of CRPA. He's also the host of Firing Line Radio Show. You can find him on AM 590 The Answer every Saturday at 1 p.m. That is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And guys, before we get into this, please, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It's bills like this that need to get spread, not just through the state, but the nation as a whole. We're going to have a collective effort in battling this, and this is definitely one of the best ways to do it. So if you can, like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps the algorithms to push the message out as far and wide as possible. So, Rick, let's jump into this. As always, we've got the Legislative Digest. Jacob, if you can pull it up for me, it reads like this. This bill would eliminate certain circumstances under which homicide is justifiable, including, among others, in defense of a habitation or property. This bill would additionally clarify circumstances in which homicide is not justifiable, including, among others, when a person uses more force than necessary to defend against danger. And, of course, Rick, we just talked about this in a separate video. By expanding the scope of the crime of homicide, this bill would create what? A state-mandated local program. So, Rick, there's a lot of buzz surrounding this bill right now. It's essentially making California a duty to retreat state. So before we get into any of the text of this bill, can you just explain what California, the status that California currently sits under, and what the argumentation would be against a duty to retreat law like this?
Now, currently we have a couple of different things under use of force, which is what this bill is designed to go after, is to change the use of force. So you have a right to defend yourself, to defend your life, to defend your loved ones, both inside the castle, being your home, your property, and outside. People currently in the status quo, when they go get their concealed carry permit and they go through the 16 hours of training, are taught when and when not to. And one of the points I want to make out to everybody watching this is there have been zero incidents, no gun owners, lawful law-abiding gun owners are going nuts. Yet that is exactly what this bill goes after, but it doesn't just go after gun owners. A lot of people in our community, rightfully so, and we need them to stay vigilant against this bill and help us fight this and get it killed. But it's also people that might carry a golf club, might carry a broomstick, might use something in their home to defend themselves. It could be somebody with martial arts training. It could be somebody that was a boxer. It could be somebody that just throws a punch or a kick or whatever to save themselves or another person. And now it's under the highly subjective thing of, well, did you have to hit them that hard? And as somebody who has trained people, both in the military and in the civilian section, of how to defend themselves and how to do these kinds of things, I'm going to tell you right now, there are times in a crisis where you get an adrenaline rush, and we've seen people that are in their 70s and 80s move 100, 200 pounds when normally they would struggle lifting 20. Why? Because they just get that jolt of extra energy. And so maybe they thought they were going to hit them with the normal force, they hit them and they hit them with more. Well, this could make that a homicide.
Well, that exactly is the second part of this. You have the duty to retreat part or section in this bill. The other really sinister part is Section 1B2. Jacob, if you could pull this up from the actual text in the law, it says that homicide is not justifiable when committed by a person who uses more force than was reasonably necessary to defend against anger or danger. And I feel like that's kind of what you were getting into here. How exactly do you expect somebody to reasonably justify how much force is necessary? Is there any, like you're kind of stating some of the science against as an argument against something like this. Is there any science that would have argumentation for something like this? How do they expect somebody to be able to regulate themselves like that when they have adrenaline going through their system?
This is the problem. We've got too many people that want to legislate by emotion in Hollywood. And people look at me when I say that emotionally because, well, there had to be some way to save somebody. Everybody doesn't need to die. Well, nobody on our side is wanting that to ever happen. I mean, everybody I've ever talked to is like, that's the last thing I want to do for many, many reasons. Psychological, emotional, spiritually, legally, financially. There's lots of reasons nobody ever wants to go down that road. And the author does not recognize any of those things, and yet those are preeminent. And that's a fact. But the other part of this is Hollywood. Hollywood is paying these pictures. And look, I'm like anybody else. I love some of these movies, but take John Wick, for example. Yeah, Keanu Reeves, they're doing these really cool flips and shooting his gun sideways and knocking the gun out of the assailant's hands. Well, you have people that believe that, oh, you've had firearms training, Kevin. You can do that. You can, at 30 years of age, carrying your baby as a female, jump the shopping cart, pull out your gun, shoot the person, not hurt them, and just take out the weapon. Not reality. But you're going to have people that go sit on a jury stand, they're going to believe that is reality, and it's not. And you don't have the money to get all the experts to say what I just said, not reality. And so, and even if you win, there's still a civil suit that can come after that most likely you may or may not win, depending again on who that jury is. But you're never going to recoup the cost and the emotional and financial stress and damage that's done to you and your family. This bill is basically designed to make you say, I give up. This bill is written for criminals. This bill is the most tone-deaf thing that Assemblyman Zuber could come with in light of Prop 36. The people of California across political lines said enough of putting criminals over the public. And this is yet another bill that does exactly that.
Well, and there is a group of people, you could call them gun owners, who said that they don't want to do that. They want to be able to protect themselves. They don't want to rely on the state because, when danger is seconds away and feet from you, potentially law enforcement is minutes away. So that's something that's not necessarily going to help you. Even further into that, you have the CCW community. The entire central focus of a CCW is to be able to protect yourself when something is threatening your life. What does a bill like this actually do to the CCW community, and more specifically to the way people train to get a CCW?
Well, if this bill was passed, it would flip over the CCW system in this state overnight. It would arguably make it for a lot of people not worth getting it because it would become such a nanny state, mother may I, and even if mother said, yeah, I guess, you're still looking at daddy could come home like an hour later and you lose everything. So nobody's going to want to do it. It literally puts you in a situation with the CCW. Under current law, my children, my grandchild, somebody is out in the front yard, backyard, and someone's assailing them. I have the right to step in. Under this bill, I couldn't step in. It's not me. I don't have the right to defend anybody else, including on my property in my family. It's even questionable in this bill if I could defend my wife, who's not physically right now able to defend herself. Like, what? You're putting people in a situation of all of a sudden I go defend my wife who can't defend herself, and now I'm a murderer? Because that's what this bill would classify me as. And then I lose my constitutional rights. I lose everything. And I think what people have to realize is who's behind this bill and what this is really all about.
Well, a lot of people are agreeing with you. There is already a huge public backlash for this, not just from regular California citizens, but also law enforcement as well. Jacob, if you could pull this one up. I've got an article here from Action News Now. It's titled "Local Sheriff Among Many Speaking Out Against AB 1333." So you've got Sheriff Kane. He's the sheriff of Tehama County. He got quoted here saying this. we are swinging so far outside the realm of what is reasonable by telling people now that under certain circumstances they can't protect themselves in their own home against a criminal element is probably one of the most ridiculous things that I have ever heard. So, I guess my question to you, Rick, you're probably the best person to ask this because you are up there talking to the legislature in Sacramento. How do you as a legislature get behind a bill like this when you're receiving this much backlash from the community, but also from law enforcement who is charged literally with stopping crime and probably has the best perspective on something that could potentially reduce crime? How do you support something like that when, Sheriff Kane here is not the only sheriff. I'm assuming this is a mass majority opinion by the Tehama sheriff here. How do you support something like that with that much opposition in Sacramento?
Great question. And the answer may be one that people don't want to hear, but the fact is the left is, I compare them to rats in a warehouse fire. Rats and other wildlife in a warehouse fire run often right into the fire because they can't figure out how to get out. They're such a panic. That's what we have in the legislature right now, because the fires in Southern California, being that they were in such an area of wealth and prominence and stuff, saw a lot of people who were looked at as being left-leaning Democrats come out with their firearms to defend the ashes and what little was left. That freaked out the Dems. The political backlash has freaked out the Dems. The change on Prop 36 that they thought was in the bag for them and wasn't has freaked out the Dems. So we have a lot of Dems that are very freaked out about this, that they're trying to come off with these bills that are so tone deaf to what the people of California across political lines want. That's not even funny, Kevin. And now what they're trying to do is take money from organizations. And like we talked in a previous video, the money that is coming from this is Giffords, Brady, Everytown, people that got taxpayer monies through now defunct organizations like USAID. That's where this money is coming from. And those are the only people standing. This bill has already clearly made the lines very clear. There's the public safety people, law enforcement. There's the Second Amendment people, us. There are the CCW holders, people throughout the state. And then you have the antis who come from other states. They don't have a home office in California, who are trying to force this on us. And they're trying to say, oh, well, other states kind of sort of have something like this. Yeah, those other states have castle doctrines. They don't have this. That's a lie. And so I see this mostly because if you look at Assemblyman Zbur, immediately brings in the Kyle Rittenhouse incident, tries to malign him. Kyle Rittenhouse jumped in the media over the last couple of days and said, hey, I'll come testify. This is about grandstanding. Zbur is using all of us, I feel, halfway to see if he can get away with it. Another half of, hey, this is a political prop to get him some notoriety across the nation because he wants to run for higher office and he's willing to do it off of trying to go after us.
Yeah,
And
so
so this is our turn to burn him.
Let's bring that one a little bit more into context. In the same article, Jacob, if you could pull this back up, just in case you weren't aware of the malicious nature of Assemblyman Zbur, it kind of brings it out a little bit more here. The article states also, not everyone is against the bill, with some gun control groups coming out in favor of the bill. However, the substantial public backlash has prompted Zbur to make a response where he promised to amend the bill, stating, the goal is to prevent a wannabe vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse from provoking violence and claiming self-defense after the fact. By the way, that's not exactly how that went down. It's very well documented. You can look it up on YouTube or whatever. You can see that entire trial. You can watch all the videos. Anyways, he goes on to say, we will amend the bill to make this crystal clear. So how disassociated from reality is Zbur here actually? Like, first of all, I'm pretty sure that California doesn't have a vigilante problem. You've already stated we certainly don't have an issue with CCW holders in the state, or for that matter in the nation as a whole. I guess I'm asking you to use your imagination here a little bit, but how could this bill be amended in a way that Zbur is talking about here?
Can't. Look, Zbur, this is a man who loves to run public policy bills for problems that do not exist. He never has any evidence they exist. He lives in what I like to call the Tom Cruise world of Minority Report. He predicts something's going to happen in the future, and so he wants to get out in front of it, but nothing has happened. And he's willing to sacrifice people's rights and people's lives. You got to realize this is going to go to public safety. And one of the things that public safety dais is going to have to face is people like myself remind them they're in charge with public safety. This makes it less safe for the public. This puts people of color, single parents, elderly, the youth, families, everybody in harm's way. Because one of the things that I want to highlight to you is it says when the person in the bill, it says when the person was the assailant engaged in mutual combat or knowing engaged in conduct reasonably likely to provoke a person to commit a felony or do some great bodily injury, and that person said they were in imminent danger or death and exhausted every reasonable means to escape such danger. Or they have also told the other assailants that, hey, I want to withdraw or terminate. Talking with law enforcement, talking to people who've had to use their CCWs, as I've done for years, you are never going to be in a situation where you can go, excuse me, bad guy, bad girl, timeout. I think I'd like to end this. You're dead. You're never going to have that opportunity. And this just shows the fantasy world that Zabur and those in the far left live in, and they think we're gonna swallow the pill. We're not swallowing the pill. We are going to fight this every step of the way.
Certainly we are, which is going to force us also to follow along and shout out at every opportunity we can, which if it continues to pass through committees and houses, it will be multiple opportunities. So what are your final thoughts on this, Rick? And do we have a timeline here? Do we know when the first committee meeting is on this?
It will be sometime in the month of March that will go to public safety, and we intend to stop it there.
Any other thoughts? Is this the most malicious bill that we have thus far this session? How is the legislature looking moving out of February now?
We have a lot of malicious bills, but this by far is the most dangerous to public safety because, and I want to highlight this again, while we talk about firearms policy, Second Amendment, this isn't just Second Amendment, folks. This is like, hey, you could have a group of people on a jury going, well, did she have to use the glass candlestick? Couldn't she use just a frying pan to knock them out? Look, when literally a second to make a decision, you're going to grab whatever's closest to you to defend yourself or those you love. And it's your house, doggone it. You should be able to do that.
Well, guys, this is one to write your legislators about. This is one to call your legislators about. This is one to post about on social media. We're really going to need to get the public swinging against the legislature on this bill to make sure that it doesn't pass. We, of course, as I've talked about before, we do have the one-click politics tools that we will be issuing out through emails, so watch out for those. Rick, I know that you're a busy guy. Thank you very much for your thoughts on this, and thanks for being on today.
And thank you. And I have one other thing. When it comes time for those testimonies, as many people as we can get into that room that says, I'm from this part of California and I stand against this bill, we can flood it. And my goal is to get at least 100 people in there.
And we don't have to assume that's what the lobbyist says because the lobbyist just said it. Thanks again, Rick, for coming on.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. And guys, if you like content like this, you want to see more, you want to stay up to date on bills like this, please, once again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps get the message out there, and these are the kinds of bills that we need to get the message out there for. So go ahead and do that. Help it get out a little bit further. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.